This week on the Pro Wrestling Podcast. John Cena bitches out on behalf of the Chinese government. AEW EVP beefs. The Ultimate Warrior. A&E Biography and Dark Side of the Ring. And the lovely Australian ladies, the Iiconics. All that and more. I'm your host, Seth Grimes, and this is the Pro Wrestling Podcast.
It's Vince apology.
But not in the Warriors character.
I'm humbly apologizing, but I'm not saying what I'm humbly apologizing for.
That's right.
I know what the gimmick's for, but I mean, what's it for?
In 3, 2.
I understand that there comes times in everyone's life when they may regret certain things. That they should. Yeah, I know. I don't know what the to say. I didn't say nothing to the goddamn kid.
I understand that.
Well, no, you don't, because I'm making a videotape to some kid.
It's a
work. Apology.
It's a work. That's all it is. It's a work. We're working here. That's it.
I'm working here. There's 2 matches left. I'm working here making an apology for something I didn't do. This guy's really whatever I should have, whatever I it's supposed to have said to the guy. I wish I had said to the guy.
Me too.
Well, the Ultimate Warrior was quite the topic of conversation this week. First with the A&E Biography last Sunday, and then the Dark Side of the Ring this past Thursday. This was quite the tale of 2 different documentaries. This was a interesting showcase in what it's like if you take the same topic and give it to different producers to make different documentaries, because essentially they're both telling the same story. They're both telling the story of the Ultimate Warrior. One has one perspective on the Ultimate Warrior. The other had a very different perspective on the Ultimate Warrior. So let's go ahead and get into them a little bit. First was the A&E Biography. And this one was also really, really well done. This one I thought well produced, had a lot of great. I loved like the outtakes and like behind the scenes stuff of like when they're filming an Ultimate Warrior promo and you see Vince there and he's coaching them up and that kind of thing. That's really cool to see. And you see Ultimate Warrior rage out and get pissed off. And we also got a lot from Dana Warrior and the kids and what it was like on kind of like the family side of things. And I just like the tone that they took with this biography. I know they absolutely they kind of washed over a few things a little bit here. The people that they interviewed for the documentary tended to be either his direct family or just people that were little kids at the time of his run that were fans of him. And, Hulk, of course, and a couple others. But I think this overall was pretty fair for the Ultimate Warrior. Because it did not hold back in any way, shape, or form about his comments when he was on the college speaking tour gimmick that he was doing there. They showed clips of it. They went into it in detail. They went into him being a shitty wrestler and kind of a prick and holding up Vince. They covered all the dirt that was in the self-destruction of the Ultimate Warrior, but they kind of approached it through a different lens this time around. It's kind of like a more straightforward approach to it, not trying to lean into one direction or the other. They really painted the picture of a complicated guy, a guy that was trying to find his path and his direction in life and trying to overcompensate for things and trying to just a very flawed, troubled person, but loved by his family and by his fans, not respected by his peers, but one of the most successful people in that field, regardless of what his peers thought. So I thought the A&E biography was really good. I don't know where I'd rank it at this point. There's been so many of them, but I thought it was pretty fair. It wasn't a hit piece, but it wasn't necessarily a fluff piece either, though it did lean on the fluffy side. But I kind of predicted that, right? I said that before on the show because they're still doing business with the Warriors family, Dana Warrior, that kind of thing. They got the Warrior Award. The self-destruction's out there, so people know those stories, so they can't lie about it or hide them, but they can address them straightforward and keep moving forward and kind of tell that last bit story of his life. And for all of his flaws in as a wrestler, as a human being on the talking circuit, his family loved him. He came back, he made peace with everybody in the wrestling business. How much hate can you hold in your heart for a guy? At what point do you let that go? And even more fairly acknowledge that he made peace with himself and peace with the world before he left. And with that said, this is going to be controversial as fuck, but I'm just going to be 100% honest here. Like I'm kind of very disappointed in the boys from the dark side of the ring this episode. Conrad Thompson's on record of saying that this was his favorite episode that they did this season, possibly ever. And swore up and down this was going to be better than the A&E biography. Because the A&E biography wasn't even scheduled to come out as early as it did. It was going to be later in the series. But they actually made the decision to bump it up because of the Dark Side of the Ring one. They wanted to get the jump on it, or so it seems anyway, right? Why else would you switch it? To be the same week, but a few days before the Dark Side of the Ring episode. The Dark Side of the Ring episode was disappointing. I felt like it had an agenda, kind of. I felt like it was attempting to retell the story of the self-destruction of the Ultimate Warrior, but just not as well produced. So a bootleg, crappier version of the self-destruction of the Ultimate Warrior. Told you, it's going to be controversial because I love the Dark Side of the Ring and I love the guys, Evan and whatever the other guy's name was. They do a lot of podcasts, they do a lot of media, so they're out there and you can hear them talk and you can hear where they're coming from. And I've never gotten the impression that they were out to bury anybody or do any kind of hit piece or make a sleazy show. Dana Warrior was on record before this came out. She said the Dark Side of the Ring episode is all trash. It's trash, it's sleaze. And, that's expected because she's going to be positive of her man, right? But it came off sleazy. It came off like it was trying to and that's not even to say that it wasn't all true. I'm not going to say like they were sleazy in the sense of, I just feel like what they were doing was they were only talking about the bad things, which is the dark side of the ring. It's not the fluffy side of the ring. So, but the man's dead. The man died after making peace with the world. He didn't die this horrible human being. He might have been. I don't know. None of us know anybody personally, but for all intents and purposes, like, you could tell that there was a different side of the guy, and at the end, he was at peace with the world. He was, from all the video, the interviews, the promos. It just, that's what you gather anyway. So why retread all that negativity? If you're going to, the A&E biography did it perfect because they did a complete biography. Here's the start of his career. Here's the middle. Here's the end. And in that story, there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be good parts and bad parts. You can't just scrub the bad parts from someone's story like that, especially when it's been told to great publicity. Like the self-destruction of the Ultimate Warrior was such a hit piece that Everybody heard about it. Everybody watched it. Everybody knows those stories. Nobody denies those stories either. Nobody's saying, oh, those are lies or anything like that. But why go back there again? Why go back there and tell that same story only with shittier production, less interviews, less clips? Like they kind of told, they kind of touched on him making peace towards the end, but they didn't do it in the best of ways. It was like it kind of ended abruptly. Had Jake the Snake just waving his hand like, see ya, like, I don't know. I got done watching the Ultimate Warrior biography on A&E, feeling pretty good about myself, feeling pretty good about the Ultimate Warrior, feeling nostalgic. It's a WWE piece. It's going to be fluffy. I know that. But they didn't leave any of the other shit out. They didn't dwell on it. They didn't bury him about it, but they mentioned it. They talked about it. They addressed it. They moved on. It was fair. It was fair. The self-destruction of the Ultimate Warrior was not fair. That was a hit piece, and I felt like Dark Side of the Ring was a retread of that. They didn't do anything new. They interviewed his old wife, who honestly didn't even say anything that bad about the Warrior either. Ooh, he cheated. Every wrestler in the 80s probably cheated. On the road all day, every day. Drugs, the fucking 80s party life. Their wife, she probably cheated on him. I think she was at home fucking just holding down the fort all fucking pure. Probably not. Even if they don't fuck, some of these girls, they get like a male friend where they confide all their emotional stuff into. So it's emotional cheating even that happens. Like she was fairly glowing about the Warrior, she was sad when he died. She was friends with him. She was heartbroken when they stopped being friends. She said good things about him. He was misunderstood. He was all of it. So she was just as glowing about him as Dana was. I just don't know what they were trying to achieve with that. I feel like it was designed for ratings because the Ultimate Warrior is a giant star. So what's a lot of people going to be interested in? The Ultimate Warrior. But what story did they tell with it? Where did they go? They didn't break any new ground. We heard all this before. It was told by the WWE only 10 years ago and better. And then they moved on from it, and all is well with the world. Now we're retreading it. I just think it was a very rare miss for the Dark Side of the Ring crew. I don't know what they were thinking or trying to do. I don't know how Conrad Thompson could say it's the best one. And, some of you will disagree with me, and I'm okay with that. You might be fine with, he was a piece of shit at points in his life, so fuck him, and why hide it? Let's celebrate his shittiness and tell that story. Even Jim Cornette kind of held back. He was talking about how he, talking about him in a respectful way towards the end. How he came back and made peace with everybody. But I felt dirty after watching that episode, or I did not. I felt warm inside after the A&E episode. So I don't know. Those are just my thoughts on it. Very interested in your thoughts. Just a tale of two biographies is what it really is, and whatever side you like or want to take in it, you're gonna like one more than the other. But those are my thoughts on it for what they're worth. Just my opinion. Welp. John Cena found himself in a whole bunch of heat this week. First on the side of China overseas, and then on the side of the United States. What the fuck happened? Check out this clip.
So many prominent Americans who are speaking up on behalf of... They're so shy about offending China because they're afraid that their market share in China is going to go down. And yet more and more we are seeing celebrities who are coming out and just doing the bidding of the Chinese. So here is John Cena apologizing for calling Taiwan its own country.
你好，中国，这是叫西娜。
Speaking in Mandarin.
我必须说，现在，在速度与激情中，我做很多采访，很多。
Okay, the fact that John Cena he came out and said he loves China and that he apologizes for suggesting that Taiwan is its own country is insane.
This makes John Cena look so bad. Like, what a fucking cuck. Completely beholden to Hollywood. All right? Completely beholden to his contracts. Completely beholden to his wallet. All of this boils down to money. That's all this has to do with, okay? Hollywood wants to play movies in China's market because China's got the biggest population in the world. They want to be able to sell movies to those people. In order to do so, they have to go through the approval of the communist Chinese government because that's how communist countries work. Everything goes through the government. Everything gets the government say so. Right? I wouldn't be able to make this podcast without the government stamp of approval. So in order to sell movies to China, they have to make China happy people. Not the Chinese people themselves. The Chinese people themselves are much like the people of the United States, just normal, average, everyday, good people. But the Chinese government is ruthless as fuck. And if they don't like a fucking line that you said in a movie, they'll just not play it. And you're just missing out on half of the world, basically, of income. Over half of your income in a movie would come from China. So, of course, this zest for money that Hollywood has and the actors that are in these movies make themselves completely beholden to a completely different country with a completely different way of doing things. So because of this greed, the movie companies bend over backwards for the country of China. Some of them will take out entire scenes or rewrite scripts, shoot things completely differently, all in order to appease the Chinese government. It's not even an issue of offending Chinese people as far as like a racist comment or something like that. It's offending the Chinese government just because. In this case, Taiwan, which is its own fucking country. I mean, this should be apolitical here. This shouldn't be any kind of politically charged thing. It's a fact. They have their own government, their own leaders, their own elections. They have their own flag. They have their own everything. They are their own country. China doesn't like to think that. China likes to think that Taiwan's just their crazy cousin that acts a fool sometimes, but he's still family. That's just not the case. So China gets offended when John Cena says that Taiwan is the first country to get to see the new movie. Oh, Jesus Christ, we can't have that. It's going to be an international incident. Because Taiwan's not a country, they're China. So you should have said China's the first country that gets to see the movie. So this alone is enough to put the entire Fast and Furious movie in danger of not even being able to be seen in China, which is going to cut the money that the movie's going to make in half, just in that alone. So they send John Cena, who's been learning Mandarin since he worked for the WWE, for the same purpose, to get WWE in the door to China. And he kisses their ass. Not only does he apologize, but he licks their boots. It's the Kiss My Ass Club, but not for Vince McMahon, for China. And whoever the leader is over there, I don't even know. It doesn't matter. Some dictator fuck who doesn't even allow YouTube or Facebook or any of that shit over there. So John Cena makes a full cuck of himself, completely just neutering himself. No balls, no spine, going out there like a jellyfish, just fucking licking Chinese boots to get Fast and Furious 9 into theaters in China. I hope it was worth it. I hope it was worth it. And in his apology, he didn't even make things right because all the Chinese people were still making comments on their side. Why couldn't he just say that Taiwan isn't its own country? He still didn't say those words. He didn't say those words because it's not a real thing. And Chinese people are brainwashed to believe this. You know, because they only get information that's approved by their fucking dictator. Okay, they have actual people that filter and scrub the internet for bullshit. And sometimes stuff makes it through, and they allow some stuff to make it through to make it look not so filtered. But then they flood it with propaganda and all this other stuff too. There's people that this is their entire job to do this. These are like United States call centers, customer service. This will just be another computer center where there's people working, filtering, scrubbing the internet of all these dirty lies. So the Chinese people don't even know the true history of Taiwan. Unless they get on like a VPN and they do their own digging and stuff like that. But everything's so twisted and backwards. Taiwan's its own country. I'll argue that all day. So come at me, bro. So John Cena fucked up. And then, of course, the United States side of things looks at him the same way that I'm looking at him now. What a fucking cuck. What a douchebag. What a piece of shit. Why you're blatantly selling yourself out for a communist dictator leadership. And what's the old thing? Give an inch, take a mile. So you think we're going to send our actors out there now to lick the boots of the Chinese government anytime they say something slightly wrong? You don't think the Chinese government's going to dangle that bait over the United States even more? Oh, we won't let you sell that here if you don't do this. This is a very slippery slope. But now we're starting to get a little bit political, and that's not the idea of this whole thing. I never want to be political, and this can be seen as a political issue, but quite frankly, we have a country that exists on its own, not even a tie to China. Like Hong Kong, a lot of people think is a country on their own, and you could debate that, but in reality, they are owned by China. Their leaders are approved by China. So China picks a handful of people and says, these people are the people you can vote from. We've approved of them. And China just keeps taking more and taking more and taking more from Hong Kong. Big, long story. But Taiwan is not the same thing. Taiwan is their own country, completely separate from China. And they will slap you in the fucking face if you tell them any different. But can't tell the Chinese people any different because they don't know any different. They've been taught all their lives that Taiwan's just acting a fool, but they're really with us, you know. And John Cena just looks like a puppet ass bitch. And unfortunately, this is the route that Hollywood's going in general. Industry in general. All the big corporate and multinational corporations and shit that run this country, quite frankly, all want the business of China. Which is why shit's just hitting the fan. And this is just one example of that. And John Cena is a casualty of this. You know what? Whatever. I'm not... yes, I've lost a shit ton of respect for John Cena over this. Absolutely. He looks like an absolute spineless Hollywood puppet. But, hey, you know what? He's trying to make a career and trying to do his thing out in Hollywood. And if he didn't do this, that would pretty much be the end of his career. I mean, at least he has appeased Hollywood and will continue to be in movies and make lots and lots of money for himself. But not without a shit ton of controversy, blowing up social media, blowing up the YouTube, blowing up the news feeds this week. And anytime a John Cena pops up in the news, it's worth covering, you know? So... anyway, I'll leave it there, but absolutely interested in your thoughts. Leave them in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. Otherwise, just, I don't know, send them telepathically or something. We'll figure it out. We got major heat, brother, between the EVPs over at AEW. At least that's what the internet will have you think. We've been hearing this for several weeks now, been backed up by... little evidence, but heavy speculation. Well, in the AEW Double or Nothing press conference this week, Cody Rhodes was asked flat out by Sean Ross Sapp. And props to Sean Ross Sapp, by the way. He's one of my favorite wrestling journalists in the business. He's got his finger on the pulse of things. I think he gets the scoops more often than not. You know, we got a whole conference call full of people just asking silly questions that are just kind of pandering to the pay-per-view. And You know, tell me how it feels to be so successful in your first 2 years as EVP of AEW and all of your growth. You know, we get that kind of stuff. But it was SRS who jumped in and was like, hey, what's up with all the beef talk? Cody Rhodes addressed the incident. Take a listen to this clip right here.
So we've heard some rumors, unsubstantiated so far, that you and other EVPs might not be on speaking terms. The Young Bucks made light of it on their bio, which you also retweeted. Is there anything you can lend to that? Is there anything that you can provide? I mean, is it true? What did you think when you heard that out there? Is there anything you can add to that?
Well, when I heard that story was floating around, it is one of the things I chalked up as we've been very successful, AEW, and with NXT using the Wednesday Night Wars, that created a lot of anger. And I understand that there's a lot of hardcore NXT and WWE fans out there, and that's why those stories like that don't surprise me. I think people need to cling to something, and as sexy as that story is, I talk to Matt and Nick every day. I talk to Kenny very often. I support their projects fully. They've been supportive of all my projects, and we would not be able to put this show on the air. Tony's the man and Tony's the boss, but we would not be able to put this show on the air if the four of us were not functioning as one team. So we really, unfortunately, it's not very sexy to say, but there's no truth to that. Again,
I find
we're
friendship
one team,
very
and now
sexy.
with us expanding onto TBS, we will remain one team.
No beefs, no heats, no warmth, according to Cody Rhodes. You know, I think this is probably one of those things that was blown way out of proportion, but it's also one of those where there's smoke, there's fire kind of thing. Now, when rumors like this get out, it's probably because somebody backstage is telling people this. So there had to have been at least one, probably more people backstage going, hey, I don't really see Cody and the Bucks hanging out all that much anymore or talking all that much. I think there's a little bit of heat there. That mixed with Cody's not on BTE anymore either. He has not appeared on BTE in many, many months. He hasn't stopped doing the web videos, though. He's actually over on Sammy's vlog and doing all of his skits over there. So that's a little bit of smoke, too. But you got to kind of take it at face value. No, he's not going to come right out and be like, yeah, you know, those guys have been kind of dicks lately, or yeah, I've been kind of a bitch lately, or yeah, we're not really seeing eye to eye on things right now and there's dissension amongst the ranks. No, he's going to come out and say publicly that we're doing good, we're a team, blah, 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 blah. But at the same time, if they're all, he's right that they're not going to be able to function as a company if there's that kind of dissension where they're not even talking to each other. So they don't have to like each other all the time or agree with each other on everything all the time. But as long as they can still work together behind the scenes and get things done, that's all we really need. You know, Cody Rhodes has said little things, even in this little conference call here, about, you know, oh, the Young Bucks are exciting for me to see as they bring a whole new style that I did not come up on, and kind of a nice way of saying that it's not really my thing, the thing that they do, but hey, I support it, and he might very well support it. I think in general, the issue probably is because if I had to just throw a shot in the dark here, I would say is that the Bucks and Omega love the indie-rific style, the flips, the flops, the dives, the less selling, more action, the newer way of working. And the Young Bucks, I think, are the epitome of that. And it's not a bad, I'm not a Jim Cornette where I'm going to shit on it and be like, oh, that's not wrestling. Wrestling's wrestling. Anything that happens in a ring is wrestling. You know, the cruiserweights showed me that at a very young age. There was Hulk Hogan versus Roddy Piper and that kind of shit. And then there was Dean Malenko versus Eddie Guerrero. And I saw right away, okay, you can wrestle like this or you can wrestle like that. So I learned these different styles. And then you see like a Bret Hart. He taught me that as well, even younger. Being more technical while the other guys are power slamming and clotheslining and punching brother and all that shit. Bret Hart's out there doing fucking backbreakers and fucking Russian leg sweeps and working the leg. And I picked up on all that. So wrestling can be many different things. I think if there's any kind of dissension there, it's simply that they don't really see the business the same way. Cody's much more of a traditionalist and the Bucks are much more of an indie-rific. And that's fine. They're both fine. As long as they can put on a show at the end of the day, and as long as the Bucks don't really move in and say, Cody, you can't really do that kind of match. We want all of our matches to be indie-rific, and Cody doesn't encroach on all the flip-flop and flyers and say, hey, you got to be more traditional. Let everybody do their thing because everybody's into a different kind of wrestling. So until we hear more or till something happens, I'm going to say that it's a whole lot to do about nothing, but there's probably a little bit of something there, just not enough to end the company or see people get fired or quit or leave or anything like that. I think that's a little bit blown out of proportion, but we shall see, won't we? The Iconics, Cassie Lee and Jessica McKay, the former Peyton Royce and Billy Kay, we're on the Busted Open podcast this week, talking with Dave LaGreca and Bully Ray. And Bully wasted no time getting into the meat of the matter. What the fuck happened back at WWE? Check out this clip.
In your opinion, what the frick happened? Do you even know what happened?
I wish I knew, to be honest. When I say that I was in, it was a total shock. I had no idea. When I got the phone call, I thought it was in regards to something else. I was like, oh, they need me to do something. I'm needed for something else. And when I heard those words, we're going to release you, my heart dropped. And I was so shocked and I was just heartbroken, and I don't have any answers, and I don't think I'm ever going to get answers. So at the moment, I'm just trying to just have peace with that.
Cassie, did you feel the same way?
So it was absolutely a shock because, obviously they do, the budget cuts once a year, but they hadn't done it in a while. And then I thought last year's was just purely because of the pandemic. So I didn't see it coming, and maybe I should have, especially because I was really doing nothing since they split us up. Complete shock. And I feel like we're still going through waves with it, whereas one day I'll feel so free and so excited for these opportunities that now we can take upon ourselves, and then other days I'm just I sit there wondering I just don't understand. And I like Jess said, I don't think we ever will understand. And to be honest with you, I don't really think there's much of a reason other than cuts had to be made.
It really is mind-boggling. Go ahead, Bully. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Cuts have to be made, but you don't make them when you have entertaining talent. You don't make them when you have two women like you who could maximize 1 minute of television time better than I've seen any other talent do. And I'm not blowing smoke up your asses because I don't do that. Whatever. We don't want to spend the rest of the time talking about. I just wanted to know if you guys had known what happened. I can tell by looking at you and listening to you that the raw emotion is still there. But trust me, you're going to do phenomenal because you're too talented.
Yeah.
Tell me about what you have going on. Tell us about what you have going on with Offer Chops and where you would both like to see yourselves wind up. And do you want to stay together?
Yes, we definitely want to stay together. We want to move forward together because that we just, like we said in the first episode of Offer Chops, that we're just most comfortable together and we can play off each other so easily. We don't even have to talk about what we're going to do. We just go out there and it just kind of comes naturally to us because we have so much history together. We're a package deal. We're going to move forward together.
Nice.
And that's what it is.
Yeah.
Insane. I said this when the releases happened. To let the Iconics go is a fucking sin. It's a sin against nature. No, they weren't like the greatest in-ring talents at all, but they were huge fucking talents. Just breaking them up to begin with was the stupidest shit ever because you took away what made them great. Individually, they were so-so, and they admit that. They know that their strength is together as a package, and them saying that they're going to go forward as a package, that they are a team. I fucking love that. I like the idea of an inseparable, like, they're two. They're a group of two. Even in singles competition, they can just be two. But, you know, tag teams as well. I hope to God these women end up in AEW. Because I don't watch a lot of Impact. I don't. It doesn't do nothing for me. NWA has been god-awful. I don't watch Ring of Honor much. You know, I do check out things when things are, you know, when something big happens or whatever. But for the most part, if I'm watching any other wrestling, it's AEW. And, you know, Cassie's got a husband already there on the roster in Sean Spears. So it feels like it's already meant to be, that it's already like right there. It's a fucking softball. I don't know how contract shit works. I don't know if they're a 90-day no-compete clause, if they're allowed to get phone calls and be like kind of setting something up on the back burner so that they're ready to go when their 90 days is up. I don't know if they're not allowed to talk or if they're just not allowed to appear. I believe it's just an appearance thing. So honestly, like if I was Tony Khan, if I was running any, all of these women should have gotten multiple phone calls the day they were released immediately. That would have probably been my first call. Probably maybe Samoa Joe first, then the Iconics. They're right there, number 2. I think they'd be a very solid get for any company, but hopefully AEW. Put them on TV, give them a microphone, let them do their thing, let them be creative, let them bring more attention to the women's division. You know, Britt Baker is about to step up, in my opinion, she's about to step up to that top spot, that elite spot, the championship spot. I think the Iconics can hold that seat right below her as like the number 2 heel, 1A, 1B, you know, or 2A, 2B, I should say. Regardless, wherever they go, they're going to be huge stars. They're going to be top talent on whatever roster they end up on. They're going to be successful. And WWE will regret letting them go, whether they have or not, because they're iconic. I never got why they were let go. Never got why they were split up. They stuck to me very quickly. It's weird because I was never a fan of like divas, and to me they kind of seem like divas era wrestlers. As in they don't really have a lot of in-ring talent, and they're more character and looks, and I don't know, but to me, I clung to them instantly. Like one of the first times I saw them, I was like, I like that act. I'm an Iconics fan almost immediately in NXT, all the way back in NXT, right when they started. So enough of that, I suppose. Been ranting long enough, but you know, huge loss for WWE, huge gain for whoever picks up the phone and signs these 2 women because they're going to do great things. TK himself, the man, the myth, the legend, the president and owner of AEW, was on AEW Unrestricted this week, giving the full rundown of Double or Nothing, which is tonight. If you're listening to this the day the show drops, or it was last Sunday if you're listening to it some other fucking time. Doesn't matter. Anyway, Tony Khan was talking all about Double or Nothing, but he was also talking about some of the other big changes. The changes we addressed last week with the move to TBS and the new content and blah, 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 blah. But in this clip right here, Tony Khan mentions that they're actually looking to expand the roster. Check out this clip.
And so with the new show Rampage, and we talked about a new era, I know there's going to be some expansion of the company as well, right?
There's going to be a huge expansion of AEW, and I think that's where Double or Nothing comes in. This is our huge signature pay-per-view. We really take our quarterly events seriously. You know, we have to start expanding the roster in AEW, and there's going to be great moments, great surprises, because the company's going to change. I'm, very happy with what we've done in these first 2 years, and now's the time to build off it, grow. With Rampage coming in, it's a great time to expand. We're going to do all kinds of great expansion, whether it's the new show, new programming. We're going to launch quarterly specials with TNT, these super cards that I'm very excited about.
Right.
And new people coming into the roster.
This shocked me. This shocked me, actually, because they have such a big roster already. They have so many people under contract. We're to the point where Tony Khan actually had said in an interview before that if it weren't for the pandemic, they probably would have cut some people. Now they want to bring in more people. I get they got a whole nother show that they're adding on, another hour. But they have guys that are underutilized now on the roster. There's guys that aren't on every week or don't get a match as often as we'd like to see. I think they can make plenty use of a third hour with the roster that they have and still even make cuts. I hope that they don't double dip on doing, to where a storyline will carry over from one show to the next. I'm not talking like a brand split, but WWE has done in the past when they did when everybody was on every roster, where it was, whatever the main storylines were on Raw were the main storylines on SmackDown too. And suddenly, we're just we're just continuing the same story twice in 1 week. Whereas you got a whole fucking roster underneath you where you could probably give them some storylines too and kind of get everybody on the show. Now, I realize that a lot of guys get extra work on Dark and Dark Elevation, but I don't watch that shit, and most people don't. Not that it's bad. I don't say shit like it's shit. I just say I don't watch that shit. But the idea of actively looking to expand your roster, look, I love, as a wrestling fan, seeing new talent come into a company and, the big debut and what they do with them and all that shit. But I think AEW's got a massive roster, and honestly, there's a handful of guys that I would be looking to cut rather than add more on top of, unless they're going to be cutting and signing. Like WWE cuts Mickey James and then signs Eva Marie, like one of those drop dead weight for a big rising up and coming superstar kind of thing. Speaking of, I did see there that they recently just re-signed Joey Janela to a new contract, which he would have been one of the first people I cut. He was going to be on my cut list for sure. Him and Marco Stunt and Alex Marvez. Those three would be out the door if it was up to me. But it's not up to me, so Joey Janela gets to sign for another year or so. So apparently, everybody's job is safe. Everything's just hunky-dory and fine, and more people are on their way in. So I am looking forward to seeing who they bring in and what they do with them. I'm just saying, personally, I think they got enough people to even pull off an extra hour. No problem. But hey, who am I to stand in the way of guys getting paydays, right? Get those big fat paychecks flowing. Money's getting dished out to wrestlers. That's a good thing, no matter what. And if you are looking into bringing new talent into the company, there's a lot of great talent out there right now. Both talent that's left the WWE and talent that's just making its way up the indie scene. AEW really has a lot to pick from and should go out of their way to sign those, especially women. Like I had said, when WWE did all those big releases, I would make an effort to try to scoop up every single one of those women because they need them on their roster. Tony's a big nerd and a big numbers guy. So I don't think they're in danger of not being able to afford all their people. I think Tony knows to the penny what he's making, what he's keeping as profit, what he's spending on talent, what he can still spend on talent. All of that, I'm sure he's got down to the fucking penny. So I'm not worried about that. Obviously, they can afford to sign more people and get guys paychecks. So is what it is. Hopefully we see somebody new tonight on Double or Nothing. Nobody's been overly hyped, but I think that's kind of a result of learning their lesson from the whole Christian thing. Probably better to not say anything and shock people than overhype it and have people be kind of underwhelmed. You can check out AEW Unrestricted every single Thursday, hosted by Aubrey Edwards and Tony Schiavone. Jon Moxley did an interview with Wrestling Observer Live, talking with Brian Alvarez about all kinds of different things, including the Double or Nothing pay-per-view, his book that's on the way, titled Mox, and his baby that's on the way any day here. Check out this clip of Moxley talking about his relationship with Eddie Kingston, forming the tag team and how he feels about that, going into their big match with the Young Bucks. Check this out.
And it's so much fun and so effortless. Because that's how me and him are in real life. Like, when I've seen him, when he came to AEW on the first night, I hadn't actually seen him in years. Because, you know, you get on two different roads and two different paths in this business. Sometimes you just don't see people for a long time. 30 seconds after seeing him, it was like I'd seen him yesterday. It was like we just picked up right where we left off. Like, nothing changed. He was the same. I was the same. And I was like, man, I feel like I saw you like last week, but I hadn't even seen you in years, you know? So that's just how we are in real life. And in the ring, we have the same kind of mentality. We're like, okay, this is, especially when we get together and kind of feed off each other's aggression and anger and so forth. But, you know, we go out there, it's like, to us, this is a fist fight outside. It's 2:30 in the morning, the bar is closed, and somebody's been talking trash, and they're going to get their teeth knocked down their throat.
These guys are great to watch. They're great to watch because they're real. You know, when you see these guys, you can feel that they have that chemistry with each other. And that's always fun to watch, no matter what. Whether you like a team or not, you like to see that real-life chemistry play its way out onto the TV. It was cool that he shouted out the Acclaimed, too. I really liked that match. I thought the Acclaimed held their own. Moxley and Eddie brought the fight to them, and they held up, and they did good. They put on a good match, and I thought that was a really good tag team match. Good showing for the Acclaimed. I'm a fan of them. But I'm a fan of the team of Moxley and Kingston. Both of them are great talkers. Their promos are funny as fuck. But Moxley got a kiddo on the way. I don't know if he's going to be taking time off after he has the baby. I imagine he'll take some time off, a couple weeks anyway, but it's not like he's going to be out for months or anything like that. Life's good for a Jon Moxley. Got a book coming out, all that shit, tag teaming with his buddy. As of this recording, Double or Nothing hasn't happened yet, but I do anticipate that match being really fun to watch. I'm looking forward to it. It's that one in the Britt Baker, Hikaru Shida match that I'm really looking forward to. Both those matches are high on my list for this pay-per-view here tonight as I record. But if you haven't yet, go check out this interview with Moxley. It is on YouTube. It's about a half hour long. Lots of good shit just to get inside the mind of one Jon Moxley. Jim Cornette had a lot to say on Corny's drive-thru, as usual. Never at a loss for words is Jim Cornette. This week, it was him and Brian Last talking about the great immortal Hulk Hogan. That kind of stirred my interest a little bit. Talking about the trustworthiness of the man himself, the Hulkster brother. Check out this clip.
The only thing that we've ever taken Hogan to task about is the obvious, that he lies like Donald fucking Trump. He's the most exaggerating, fabricating, outright fucking out of thin air bullshit. Remember in his book, he said he wrestled 400 times a year because when he would fly back from Japan, he'd cross the international date line and wrestle twice in the same day.
Remember when he said that the only reason it was a George Foreman grill was because he missed a phone call from the grill people?
Yeah, he missed it, called him first, and he missed it, so Foreman got it. And that's why I've always said he's Hulk Hogan. He was already the biggest star in the business. He's already been in movies. He's already a cultural icon of some description. You don't need to keep exaggerating and lying. That's what we give him the shit for, because he's full of shit as a Christmas turkey. As Mama Cornette would say, he's so full of shit, his eyes are brown. He just exaggerates, lies, and or fabricates
easily
some really ridiculous stuff.
Very easily.
Hulk's the biggest bullshitter in professional wrestling, period. I've said it before on here. He is, I mean, wrestling is a business built on bullshitters, right? All the greatest workers are the greatest bullshitters. All of it was built on bullshit. Maybe not so much nowadays. People are pretty open and honest, it seems like. Back in Hulk's day, everybody was a worker, brother. And Hulk, king of the workers. To this day, the tall tales that Hulk Hogan will tell with a straight face, he'll look you in the eye and have you believe it. They're hilarious. It's hilarious to listen to, and he repeats them. I think he believes them himself. At this point, he does. I don't think he even thinks he's lying. You know, we've heard them all. We've heard the you know, where do you want to start with Hulk Hogan's bullshit? Could start with the Andre the Giant story. You know, I didn't know that I was going to go over, if he was going to let me. That's all bullshit. That's just to hype him up and make him sound humble and make him sound like he got the respect of Andre. And who knows why he lies or says the things he does. But that was just not true. There was I told Vince at WrestleMania 6 that I wanted to, after I handed the titles to the Ultimate Warrior, I wanted to do the old heel turn, brother, and kick him in the nuts and turn into Triple H, Hollywood Hulk Hogan. All the way back in 1991 did Hulk Hogan invent this, you know. Not to mention that, you know, when Eric Bischoff pitched him turning heel, fucking 5 years later, he was adamantly against it. 4 years later, I wanted nothing to do with it, but he was pitching it hard to Vince back in 1991. You know, Roddy Piper, man, if you would have just been able to do the job once in a while, we could have flipped the belt back and forth 3, 4, 5 times. Yeah, that happened a lot with him and Macho Man and everybody else that did do a job for Hulk, right? We saw all the times Hulk would just flip the belt back and forth and make money, brother. No? You don't remember that? You just remember Hulk beating people and then them getting pushed down to the mid-card? Oh. Well, there was the time that Hulk Hogan predicted what the reaction would be in his match with The Rock at WrestleMania 18. And he was telling everybody that me being the heel in this match isn't going to work. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Hey, I'm telling you now, it's not going to work. Then when we get to the match and the crowd refuses to accept Hulk Hogan as a heel, told you so, brother. What about the time, and they mentioned it here in this podcast, they ran through a couple of them themselves, the time that Hulk Hogan said that he had the opportunity to be the bass player or guitar player or whatever for Metallica, that they wanted him, the Hulkster. Or there was that time more recently in one of the A&E biographies, I think it was, where he talked everybody into moving down to Tampa. That was all his idea. He was in Tampa, and he told all the brothers that it was a good place to brother up, and everybody brothered up down in Tampa. Of course, there was the time where he said a bunch of racist-ass bullshit and then pretended to apologize by not really apologizing at all and just saying, hey, got to be careful of who's watching you and what you say in front of a camera. Not, hey, I'm sorry from the bottom of my heart for being a racist. You know, he should have took a fucking lesson from John Cena. John Cena apologized to fucking China over the Taiwan gimmick, as we talked about earlier, as if he had called them all a bunch of bleeps and bleepers. Hulk Hogan didn't apologize that hard. I'm so sorry. Why not? Why? Why would you keep that to yourself? Because you're not really sorry. Because you're full of shit. Because you're a fucking liar about everything. You tell tall tales to make your own legend bigger, to make you look humble, to make you look cool, to take the heat off of you, all of that shit. He weaves a web of verbiage. Like, you listen to him talk, he baby faces the fuck out of himself. He degradates himself just enough, self-deprecates just enough to get people to empathize with him. And then, because he'll say things like, I know I'm not the best worker, and he'll put himself down just a little bit to kind of let your guard down. Then he starts telling all these legends about all of his greatness. And there was times, the one of my favorites was his interview that he did with Stone Cold on Stone Cold's podcast. And Stone Cold would just pause and be like, "Is that a shoot?" That's Stone Cold calling bullshit in a nice way. Like, you're being serious with me right now? That's saying, hey, I think you're full of shit right now. And Hulk just straight face, it's amazing. It's amazing to watch. It's like, it's a work of art in a way is what it really is. It's the art of working. You can see it. You can see the snaky car salesman-esque era of pro wrestling just sliming through every little thing that he says and does. It's amazing. It's the biggest bullshitter in wrestling. I shit you not. I'm sure I left some out here. I'm sure you guys are thinking of others that I didn't mention. I'm on the spot here, right? I'm recording. I can't think of everything off the top of my head, but you get the gist. Go check out Corny's Drive-Thru. Always has lots to say. Always controversial at times, but highly entertaining. So smart. Good shit. We got more deathmatch shit this week on Talk is Jericho this time, with Madman Pondo and G Raver of deathmatch fame, talking all about this new documentary called Hard Way, and talking about the life of a deathmatch wrestler. Amongst the many quirks of the deathmatch community is the fans bring your own weapons match. Check out this clip right here where they talk about all of their fans bring your own weapons horror stories.
Tell us about some of the weapons they brought.
I'm glad you brought this up.
Yeah, me too.
I'm so glad you brought this up. So let's face it, Talk with Jericho is probably one of the biggest podcasts. I'm not kissing your ass, but
thank you.
I'm hoping a lot of fans watch this and realize, and I know G Raver's going to say the same thing. You fans are making shit way too difficult. We can't use things that are going to impale somebody's head off their shoulders.
Samurai sword.
We can't use, one thing that comes to mind, me and a guy, diehard Dustin Lee, we took a bump on fluorescent light tubes, and next thing I know, my eyes and my lips are on fire, and we neither one can see where we're going. They had filled the light tubes up with cayenne pepper all the way up. Now, what did they expect was going to happen with this cayenne pepper? It came straight up and straight back down on us. So I get it. Fans want to be creative and they want to make shit that they can brag to their friends and all that. But be smart about it. If you want us to use the stuff in the ring, you can't use bazookas, use pop guns. Am I explaining that right?
Yeah.
G Raver or not?
Yeah, you absolutely do.
A light tube full of cayenne pepper? Holy shit. That's brutal. By the way, Madman Pondo, if you don't know who he is, go ahead and throw it in your Google right now and just pull up image Madman Pondo. Take a look at that man. Take a close look at him. Go ahead. I got time. So you're pulling up your Google app, you're typing it in, you're looking. Ugh, right? Look at that guy. Ugh. That's Madman Pondo. Now, do you remember the girl in WWE that was part of the Riot Squad and she was let go? Sarah. Forgot her last name. Remember Sarah? Sarah Logan. That was her name. Sarah Logan. Had to Google that myself. I forgot her name already. Sarah Logan. Her and Madman Pondo used to date. They used to like go out and kiss and fuck and stuff. So that hot ass girl from the Riot Squad, she used to like have relations with Madman Pondo. It's true. It's a true story. She used to be a deathmatch wrestler as well. I think maybe they met on the indies. They were rolling around in some light tubes. I never got the light tube thing. I think that's where wrestling crosses the line for me, where it turns into garbage wrestling. Because even the barbed wire exploding deathmatch thing, that doesn't really bother me. Barbed wire and explosions and shit is brutal. It's violent. It's dangerous-ish, kind of. So like, but for me, I don't look at that. I go, that's brutal, but I don't look at that as garbage wrestling. I don't look at hardcore wrestling as garbage wrestling necessarily, unless that's just like the match just starts and you're just hitting each other with stop signs and sticks and pans and stuff until finally someone gets pinned, you know. That's kind of garbage wrestling, I suppose. But I think where it crosses the line is the light tubes. One, because a lot of them got the dust in it, though I know you can gimmick those and kind of like drill them or take the end off and get all that poisonous fucking gas powder out there. But not everybody does that, right? So there's always a lot of like poof of the dust. And I think that's, you kind of want that too, right? Because that's part of the effect. You know, you want your matches to be visual. So you take that nice light tube smash over the head and you get all the powder, the dust cloud that's there. That's part of the look of it. But the problem is glass is fucking glass, especially little thin light bulb pieces of glass. That shit is almost created to just carve its way into every fucking orifice of your body that it can. Some of these guys still have glass in them. It doesn't go away. And we've learned enough now from our Dark Side of the Ring adventure last week or a couple weeks ago with Nick Gage and David Arquette and that whole fucking shit. You know, G Raver tells another story on this podcast with Jericho where he caught a light tube the wrong way and almost bled out. You know, there's a way you can work them, though. I get it. I understand. You know, like the initial smash itself is probably relatively harmless. It's when you get those pieces, you know, even the powdery pieces will, you know, dig their way into you, but they're not going to kill you. I don't know. It just crosses a line. I think that's my line in wrestling. I think, and I used to watch it. I'm not a prude, you know, like when I was in high school and shit and a little bit older and stuff. But yeah, it was cool to watch dudes smash light tubes over each other's faces and, you know, bleed and die and stuff all over the ring. He's hardcore. He's hardcore. He's hardcore. Right? But now that I'm an older gentleman and I have class, I just, light tubes. It's a bit much for me because it's at the end of the day, it's entertainment. And I think you don't want anything that's going to permanently scar you or maim or murder you in a performance piece like that, you know. And I get, you know, there's people that swallow swords and you know, stunt people that do fires and falls, and I get it. It's all part of the show. It's all got a little bit of risk, and I get it. I understand, but that's where I draw my line anyway. But definitely fun to kind of dig into the, you know, it seems like hardcore deathmatch wrestling is sort of bubbling back up to the surface a little bit here. And that's not necessarily a bad thing because there are some great talents on that scene. And I think it is an art form. It is a part of wrestling that is kind of shamed a little bit in some circles. And I think does deserve that extra exposure. You know, if you don't know who Madman Pondo is, I understand, but that's sad too, because that man has gone out there and killed himself for his art. So go check it out. Go watch some hardcore deathmatch videos till you puke and feel gross and uncomfortable with yourself, and then you can feel well initiated. Ever wonder how the fuck that trombone got involved with the New Day? All of a sudden, just one day, Xavier Woods is carrying around a goddamn trombone, blowing it. Check out this clip right here.
Professor teacher was a trombonist, and so he pulled it out and I was like, oh my God, yes, I'm so in.
I don't want to fast forward too much in your story here, but how does the trombone get worked into what you guys were doing with the New Day?
So at that point, we were trying to see what they would say yes to and things that we could do. And so they had an idea. I think it was like after we won the titles and we were in New York, I think. They were like, hey, you know, we want you guys to come down and like sing a song, maybe like, you know, like New York, New York. And I was like, we're in the car and we got this text at the same time. And I go to the guys like, do you think they'll give us a trombone? Because I can figure out how to play that on trombone. And the guys were like, yeah, let's try. Let's see. We've had a good streak of getting yes. And so we texted them back and we all kind of like waited with bated breath. And then they go, yeah, we can get you a trombone. And it was like, what are we doing? What door did we just open? And so figured out how to play it during the day. And then we played it during the show. It's just ridiculous. But one of the crew guys, the set guys, Nick, is down at the bottom of the ramp. And I'm supposed to give him the trombone after we do our promo and then we can do our match. But in my head, I was like, man, I'm literally never going to be in the situation again where I'm able to take my passion of professional wrestling and my passion for music and trombone and like experience this feeling again. So I'm going to keep this trombone and I'm just going to play with it during the match and see what happens. And so I started playing it during the match. And one of the camera guys is like crying, trying to like record what's happening. And then we go to commercial and he goes, you got to keep playing that trombone. I was like, what? He said, Vince is losing his mind, crying, laughing, like he's loving this. I was like, perfect. And so we got in the back and everybody in Gorilla was laughing. And Vince was like, that's yours now. I never want to see you without a trombone now. And it's like, what is going on? This is great.
They have one of the best gimmicks ever where they can just pretty much do any kind of goofy, nonsensical shit that they want to do. And they can get it over because their characters live in this fantasy, goofy world of unicorns and rainbows and pancakes and fucking boxes of Bootio cereal and all of that shit. They live in a magical land where anything is possible. They can put all this goofy shit on their tights or important shit if they want to do that. The New Day is fun as fuck. I love those guys. I always had an appreciation for them to a certain extent, but it was really, you know, once I kind of got into their podcast and just heard them talk as people more and more and more, they're just entertaining as fuck. They're so entertaining, charismatic, fun, just a great representation of the wrestling business all around. And I just got love for the New Day. You know what I'm saying? And, maybe never had more love for the New Day than when Kofi Kingston won the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. It was fucking magical. One of the most magical title changes of the modern era. Absolutely. You can't argue that. You could feel it. It was like Daniel Bryan all over again, but for Kofi Kingston this time. The same kind of fan rise, the whole same kind of fan uproar. They demanded it. They needed Kofi as champion. Check out this clip, also from the same interview with Chris Van Vliet, of Xavier Woods talking about what Kofi Mania meant to him and the New Day. Check this out.
I was at WrestleMania 35. That, Kofi Mania was just an incredible, incredible moment, but obviously very different for you being there. Walk me through what it was like being ringside at that match, knowing what was going to happen at the end of that match.
I didn't know it was going to happen.
Oh my God.
I said, don't tell me. I said, do not tell me, because if the outcome is told to me and then it changes mid-match, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do. So don't tell me a thing. And so I knew what we had to do at the end, but I didn't know anything after that. I was like, I assume, and so all of that was just like so real, because it was something that I don't know. It made it all real. Not that it wasn't real before, because we've gotten to do amazing stuff up to that point. But this was the thing that said, it's not just us having fun and having a good time and having a good laugh with the people. It's like, no, we've created something that is worth what we believe it's worth. Now everyone sees what it's worth. It's not just wrestling. It's not just Kofi. It's not just E. It's not just me. It's everybody. It's everybody who's been in the situation where you walk into work and you do everything humanly possible to move ahead, but you just cannot. And as you're there crushing it, you see so many people with no experience, with very little experience, or who haven't done anything close to like the things you've done or been through to get to where you are. And they're just not even walking around, they're flying past you with no one saying a word to you about you and your position. At that point, in that moment, it made every decision that I've made in my life to get to WWE, to get to Kofi and E, to get to that WrestleMania moment, it made every single one correct.
Man, Kofi Kingston got robbed. I mean, he does not get treated as a former world champion. They gave it to him while his popularity was peaking, and as soon as they felt like they could snatch it away and get away with it and then bury him, they did. And I don't mean bury him like make him lose all the time, but just bury him out of that title picture. Like, forget it ever happened. We're not going to acknowledge it much. We're not going to really ever put him there again. You got your little moment. Now fuck off with it and just New Day again. But that moment was so influential for Black community, just to be frank. I mean, it's very rare that they get that kind of representation nowadays. And Kofi Kingston, the New Day, absolutely carries that flag for them. The diversity in professional wrestling, they're an excellent representation for that. Not to be all woke and shit, but you do need that representation in the business. It has to be, you just have to. And the New Day are the leaders in that area. And Kofi Kingston, in that moment, winning the WWE Championship was a huge moment for an entire culture of people that are wrestling fans, the entire Black culture. And then just for us fans, like in general, all of us fans, we've all been behind Kofi since day one. I mean, he's always been fairly likable. The New Day has always been highly entertaining, always been fun to watch. So to see an underdog like that finally get their moment, and when you use your voice and it combines with everybody else's voices and you push and you fight for your guy, Vince, as stubborn as he is, sometimes you can get through. We've seen it with Daniel Bryan. We got through with Kofi Kingston. And Xavier said in that interview that was the entire point of the New Day. Like, if they accomplished nothing else, the goal of the New Day was to get Kofi Kingston to a world title, and they did. So congrats to them, and now they seem to be moving on and doing other things. This was a very good interview. Xavier just very open and honest with Chris. Anytime somebody kind of opens up about their personal life and things that they go through and stories like that, it really kind of opens up a new side. When they allow themselves to be vulnerable, it really opens them up to connect with people, because other people are also vulnerable and have their own issues and can relate. And once you get that human connection, man, that's a fan base for life. So great shit. Go check it out. I feel like I say that a lot. It's great shit. But there's a lot of great shit out there. I call it like I see it. Some shit's bullshit. Some shit's great shit. And these are just my opinions, folks. Well, folks, we have come to the end of our journey once again. Thank you so much for staying all the way to the end, for listening to me. I appreciate you. Don't forget to like me, follow me, subscribe to me, comment on me. All that shit. Thumbs up, no thumbs down. Fuck that shit. You can follow me on social media at Seth Grimes Media. You can check us out on YouTube. Just search for Seth Grimes or the Pro Wrestling Podcast. We have full episodes or clips, whatever you like, whatever your heart desires. I have it for you. Cocaine, hookers, clips from your favorite podcast. All of it in one place. Thanks again. Hope you guys check me out next week, where I'll be back with more clips, more nonsense, more chaos from the world of professional wrestling. If it's going on outside the ring, it's going on right here on the Pro Wrestling Podcast.